in Southall. And as we look at this memorial, which has been so lovingly restored, and if you come here in the evening, you can see the wonderful lighting that's been paid for by our local councillors that we give thanks to. Thank you so much for what you've done here. This is a special place, a place where we can remember 100 years ago, the Battle of the Somme was only 5 days away from finishing. But hundreds of thousands of people had lost their lives. In the very first day of the Battle of the Somme, on the 1st of July 1916, 20,000 men died. You may not realise, but the British force in the First World War was actually quite small. The French army was 20 times the strength. And so the British army called out for volunteers across the world, to the Indian subcontinent, to East Africa, to parts of the Middle East, which is why if you go to the memorials, you will see so many names from across the old Commonwealth. That's why it was truly a world war. A world where people lost their lives in the horror of the mud of Northern Europe. People travelled hundreds and hundreds of miles. It was a war to end all wars, and yet, as we know, the horror was, it led to destruction in Germany and the rise of fascism across Europe, in its worst guise in the Nazi movement in Germany, where a man called Adolf Hitler used the excuse of the stranger, the foreigner within the midst, and blamed the Jewish people for all the ailments of economic life in Germany. Those people were systematically executed in their millions during the 1930s. 6 million Jewish people exterminated in the death camps of Eastern Europe. The first president of Israel, made the comment, it was a defining time in the Jewish faith because people realized that they were no longer welcomed in the places they lived in, and they were not welcome to move anywhere else. In this country, we took children in, kinder transport. Thousands of Jewish children were brought to this country because this country realized its responsibility in freedom to receive those fleeing from war, as well as its responsibility to fight for freedom across Europe. It was joined by people again from across the Commonwealth. And we here today are able to worship, and we're able to not worship. We're able to believe in God or not believe in God. We are free to change the way we worship and who we worship. We are free to protest on these streets, as people in Southall have done across the years. We enjoy freedom which so many parts of the world do not enjoy because of the sacrifice of all the communities that we represent here today. As we prepare for this moment of silence, let's remember that it was people not just from Southall who died in the Somme, but also people from across the world. And we give thanks to them, and we give thanks to God for their unique lives. How different life would have been if those people would have survived. How many more families would have grown? How many more children and grandchildren and great-grandchildren would be here today? How different Southall would have looked. How different the world would have looked. The cost of their sacrifice goes on. And people here today are remembering parents and grandparents, husbands and wives and children, as we remember the sacrifice of people who died in war. Let us hold the 2-minute silence. They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. At the going down of the sun, and in the morning. We will remember them.
We will remember them.
To the laying of the wreaths, and I'll call them out in order, and there will be an opportunity for everyone who has brought a wreath to come and lay their wreath. First of all, on behalf of the outgoing Mayor of the London Borough of Ealing, Councillor Harbijan Cordier, I'm going to ask her husband, Councillor Ranjit, to come and lay the first wreath. Mr. Virendra Sharma, our Member of Parliament. Representatives of the Royal British Legion. Representatives of the Metropolitan Police Force. The local fire service. And St John Ambulance. Mr. Harbin Sandhu on behalf of the Southall Chamber of Commerce. Representatives from the Norwood Green Residents Association and the local Conservative Club. representative from St John's Church. Mr Fazl Mahmood from the Central Jamia Masjid and Chairman of the Southall Faiths Forum. Father Gerard from St Anselm's Church. Mr Umesh Chandasharma from the Ram Mandir. Mr Nabraj Singh from the Singh Sabha Gurdwara. Representatives too from the Sikh Scouts. Representative from the Indian Workers Association. And now representatives of our local primary schools, from Hamborough Primary School, from St Anselm's, from Clifton Primary School, and Featherstone High School. Last but certainly not least, local members of the public representing themselves, their families and different organisations. Please do come forward. Just before we process back to St John's Church, just round the corner on Church Avenue, just to reiterate that everyone is welcome. Please come and join us for a short civic service, followed by refreshments for everyone. We would love to see you return with us. Members of local faith communities, local political organisations, local uniformed organisations will all be there, so please come and join us. We say the prayer together. Lord of all, we thank you for all those women and men who gave their lives so that we might enjoy freedom. Help us to safeguard the peace that was won at so great a cost, and to work for the freedom and dignity that you desire for all people. Through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.